As an academy owner, you work hard to build trust with your students, their parents, and your community. But trust isn't something you claim, it's something you prove and earn. That's where Academy Safe comes in. We help academies like yours stand out with verified safety standards. Background checks for all staff, U.S. Center for Safe Sports certification, concussion training, defibrillators on site, CPR, first aid and AED certification, security cameras, rank and lineage checks, and verification of business insurance. Join the trusted martial arts registry that's redefining safety throughout North America. Lead by example. Show parents you're accredited with Academy Safe.
Hello, and welcome to My Empty Hands, a podcast about the martial arts, typically focused on Kenpo, but we give love to all the martial arts around here. I am Reggie Darden, and this is going to be a fun and exciting and long overdue episode today. So today I'm going to be talking with Mr. Bill Piper. He is my Kenpo teacher, and I'm excited to do this for a number of reasons. I mean, one, obviously, because he's my teacher. Even though I've been training with Mr. Piper for a few years now, I don't really know the whole origin story. So this is going to be fun to learn about that. And we're going to just get into his Kenpo journey and whatever other rat holes that we decide to talk about. So I usually start things off with just giving a little bit of my background. At this point, I currently train in 5 different martial arts, American Kenpo being the primary one. I also train in Hapkido, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Capoeira, and I have some experience in Taekwondo and did a little boxing when I was in the Army. So I stay busy, as I always say, with the podcast and life and work and just all the craziness. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So now we are going to turn it over to Mr. Piper here, and go ahead and fill me and the listeners in on when did it all start for you? When did the martial arts find you? When did Kenpo find you? And we'll just kind of go from there.
Cool. First, let me say thanks for having me on, and I really like what you're doing with your podcast, and I wish you great success and with continued effort of doing what you're doing. Myself, I started training in martial arts when I was in high school. I had studied an art called Shori Goju, which is a mixture of Shori-ryu and Goju-ryu for a short period of time. When I graduated high school, I went into the Air Force, and I was a security specialist. When my enlistment was over, I'm from up north, outside Chicago. I had moved down to Arlington, Texas here, and a short time after that, I had met a guy that lived in the same complex that I worked in, apartment complex, and he invited me to come and watch a Kenpo class. And I went, and just watching a class, I knew I was going to do that the rest of my life. I started training with Bruce and Jimmy Sanders out of Arlington. First, we started out of a small school, and then they had actually moved that into a fitness center on the north side of Arlington. And I trained with them for a handful of years until my wife got homesick, and we moved back up north. I moved up north. I became a police officer. During that time, I was still training with the Kenpo that I had acquired up to that point. And unfortunately, I had more than ample opportunities to see if this stuff worked or didn't work under real under fire conditions of being tested. And when I decided that I wasn't saving the world the way that I wanted to, I decided that maybe staying in law enforcement was not the direction I needed to go. I quit being a police officer. I moved back to Texas, and I looked to say, hey, what do I have to give to help try and make people's lives better, which is what my original goal was to start with. And so the day I got back in the state of Texas, I was back in a Kenpo school, this time on the west side of Arlington, and training with a gentleman by the name of Mark King. And later on, after a lot of years, I actually got my black belt from a gentleman by the name of Sean McGowan out of Arlington, and for my first degree black. My second black came from a guy by the name of James Tyndall, and I got my third and fourth degree blacks from Master Larry Tatum. And I had a long journey. I started Kenpo back in 1985, so as of this past year, that's 40 years I've been training and teaching martial arts, and I have enjoyed teaching, kids as young as 4 years old, and guys in the military, and I've taught police officers, and I've done a lot of women's self-defense seminars, trying to teach them common sense stuff and how to trust their own intuition. And along the way, I've written a book on some aspect of Kenpo called grafting, which is kind of mixing and matching different parts of the arts together. For those that don't really know what Kenpo is really an art that's based on choreographed fight scenes. See, when the bad guy does this is a pattern that we could use to stop them. Then what I did with my grafting book is I took those patterns and parts of those patterns, and I looked at logical ways that we could connect things together to make our defense more efficient and more effective by saying, I don't have to only do that, and if that doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do, but to teach people how to take different parts of the art, different techniques, and put them together. And then in finishing that book, that I had a lot of people say, you got a lot of drills and exercises in the book that use spreadsheets to kind of allow people to kind of explore what they could do. If you would make a workbook that lays out samples of all these spreadsheet examples, we would love it, because we could just take a pencil and fill it in ourselves, and we wouldn't have to go on a computer and build a spreadsheet. We could just copy these blank pages and build these things to show relationships and stuff like that ourselves. And then that rolled into a training DVD, basically taking the stuff we did in the book and making it more visual. People that are more visual learners, they could get a lot of concepts and tactics that we teach in the book to be able to do it from watching it visually. And now this, over the years that I've taught out of my church, out of other people's schools and everything like that, renting rooms out of their schools, that kind of stuff. And then for 25 years, we had a school of our own, and we've really enjoyed that ride. But a couple of years ago, I had open heart surgery. I had a hard time kind of maintaining, keeping my school open, and getting myself back up to speed. So we ultimately had to make the decision of closing the school down, and I took about, a little less than a year's break probably. And then now we're lucky enough to be able to teach a couple hours a week out of a local Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, which we're really grateful for. And slowly our group is building back up as more people find out that that I'm back and that we're back on the mat. So that's kind of where we are today.
Yeah. No, I've been. It's been a exciting and crazy journey, but the Kenpo doesn't stop, so that's good. We're keeping the fires burning, so I love that. So to kind of just roll it back to the beginning again. So I didn't know about the Goju-ryu and the Shorin-ryu and whatnot. So what was the catalyst to get involved in that, and then what I guess ultimately led you to find it
Kind of interesting. When I was a freshman in high school, I was involved in sports. I played basketball and football. When I went out the next year, I was so small that the coach said, you're not big enough to be a lineman and you're not fast enough to be a running back. You probably need to go find something else to do. And I was kind of disheartened because I really liked the competition aspect, although at the time my feelings were hurt, but I really was a really small guy. And so ultimately I said, well, I still want to do something. And I grew up watching, Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee, and Chuck Norris wasn't really famous yet, but, I probably went to the movies and watched every movie that Bruce Lee put out in the United States. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I would be good at that. So I started in a local school, went to a couple competitions, and I thought, yeah, I like this. And did take a break from that because of family obligations, my family life. My mom was a single mom by that time and trying to raise 5 kids. I was the oldest of 5 kids, so I worked and then took care of my brothers and sisters. My mom worked afternoon, so it really pulled away from the time that I had for myself. But then ultimately, in short order, I left home, went into the military, and kind of the rest is history. I've been doing it pretty much ever since.
Mm-hmm. And now with when you found that first Kenpo school, were you looking specifically for that, or just that happened to be the school you ran into?
That had to be coincidence. I managed an apartment complex and I lived up above the mailboxes, and a couple times a week a guy would come and check his mail, and he'd be in a karate gi, and I thought, man, I'm going to catch that guy downstairs and I want to see, where he trains around here. And I called him downstairs one day, and he's like, hey, why don't you come to class with me, and meet me over to my apartment and we'll go. And I went, and it was kind of had a room of about 30, 40 people, and I'm sitting on a half wall at one end. I'm looking through this crowd, and I'm watching a brown belt and a green belt working with each other. And the green belt attacks the brown belt, and the brown belt does a pattern on him, drops him down, and I thought, oh, that rocks, that's cool. And then the other guy got up and was attacked by the first guy, and he dropped that guy, and I'm like, I want to be able to get up off the ground and do that to somebody in return. And I knew that day I was hooked, and I didn't have to do any free classes or anything. It was like, take my money. And I still have a very deep appreciation for my first instructors. I felt that they had actually set the compass course for me, and to me, Kenpo seemed so logical. They made it seem so logical. They taught me Kenpo was not hard, it was just a lot of information. And that if you would take it one bite-sized piece at a time, chew it up really good, ingrain it, then getting that next bite-sized piece would be easy also. And so I'm grateful for their setting me kind of on the path, because it could have went anywhere, between that guy that come down to the mailbox, and that guy, by the way, that come down to the mailbox is still a very, very good friend of mine. He lives across town. We still communicate. He'll come over. We hang out. we'll eat dinner, share a meal, and he's still really good friends. And we have known him, me and Rhonda have known him longer than our daughter Heather, who just turned 40. Before she was even alive, we were friends, and we still are friends. So I think that is an amazing thing by itself. I think that's not many people do that. You stay friends with people that long and still communicate and share a meal, break bread together, that kind of stuff. And then along the way, I've been very lucky to have some other very amazing instructors. I've been to seminars with Skip Hancock. I've studied under Huck Planis. I was in an organization where I was lucky enough to train with Jeff Speakman, and then I was with Larry Tatum for what I consider a long time, for more than 7 years. And all of those guys added a little bit of meat to what I do and to give me different perspectives on the art itself. Because, Mr. Parker had a saying that no one man will ever know everything there is to know about Kenpo, that there is so much. It says a lot of information. There's so much, and somebody gravitates toward this, and somebody focuses on that, and somebody grabs this easier than something else. And I am a firm believer that this whole village, that's a shame that we all can't spend time with each other all the time. I think what happens a lot of times is people break off into tribes. We're these guys, we don't associate with those guys, or, my instructor doesn't want me to talk with other people. I've always told all my guys, go out and learn as much as you can, because I only know that much. And there is so much more, not just information in Kenpo, but viable in martial arts out there, that I believe any martial art that stands the test of time has earned its boots and has something to offer. A lot of people just get stuck in this little rut that, what they know, they don't want to share with anybody else. They may steal our secrets. There's no secrets. It's just information, And I think people lose sight of that very easily. And I think there's some instructors out there, too, that I'm not going to use the word insecurity. No, wait, yes, I am. I'm going to use the word insecurity. They're insecure, that they're afraid that their student might find somebody else out there that either they feel has more knowledge of what they want, the direction that they're heading in, or might discredit something that their instructor has told them as not the gospel. You know what I'm saying? And I think that allows people to kind of, a lot of times, take their students and pull them into a box rather than open them up to the whole entire world of martial arts training. Because I've always told everybody, I don't believe Kenpo is the end-all to beat-all. What I can say is that it has worked for me without fail. And I can say without fail because I've used it more times, especially as a police officer, than I'd even want my own kids to really know. But I always made a home. Always. And, I've told people you're going to get back out of it what you put into it. If all you do is practice 30 minutes a week, that time's going to come that you're going to think you got something, and somebody's going to step up to you, and you're not going to be able to hold your own like you think you would, and then you're going to go back and go, oh, that stuff doesn't work, or that martial art is no good. And it's not the martial art, it's the artist, it's the person. You know what I'm saying? I've always tried to teach people to look at martial arts in general, no matter what style that you want to pursue, to look at it like a lifestyle, not a hobby, not something you just do 1 hour a week. Or, I teach people, our job is to teach it to you. Your job is to practice it. And, I tell people, I know what I know. I don't know everything, but I know what I know. But I can't ingrain in somebody any information. All I can do is give it to them. They have to put in the work to get it to the point that they can make it work for them. And also believe, there's martial arts that I think might be more competition based with rules and referees and corner judges and everything else. And maybe that's not as effective as a street fight, but I do believe that there's martial artists, there's individuals in those competition arts that would be very effective if somebody stepped up to them, in a parking lot somewhere. So that's why I say I don't believe it's always the art. I believe it's the person, and I know guys that have never studied a minute's worth of martial arts, and they are very dangerous fighters. And they've never had to go through any philosophy, any training. This is what they do in the Shaolin temples or in Tibet or nothing. They just go step up to me, I'll break your nose, and they don't have any qualms about that at all. So again, I believe it's the person learning how to use whatever information they have available to them. So I've been very lucky to be pretty well rounded. And I try to do that with my students too, is not only to give them information, but to also find out where's their compass headed and try to help them move in that direction. And sometimes it may be, maybe you need to do a different art. Maybe you need to do one that's, oh, sorry, my dog is,
no worries.
Rudy, sorry.
No worries. I
Hey,
say,
Rudy, come here.
Come on. I often say that this show wouldn't be a show if my dogs didn't.
My dog is like 3 feet away from me.
Hey!
And the garbage man driving by. Rudy, go.
Come on.
No
She's
worries.
shutting the
No
door.
worries.
Sorry about
no
that.
worries. We can. No worries.
So, and then,
We'll
for instance, I can lead back to you with Skip Hancock. What I got from him was something he told me is that Mr. Parker said, because he was like Mr. Parker's personal secretary and traveled all around with him like the last 10 years that Mr. Parker was alive or so. And what I got from Skip Hancock was that he said, Mr. Parker said that the concepts and principles of Kenpo take precedent over the patterns of motion. Meaning, it doesn't matter how you memorize a technique, a pattern, if you understand the underlying concepts of how we approach a problem or how we deal with an issue, which is way more important than if you do 3 moves or 5 moves or you got to do a 9-move technique on somebody. If you understand how to make Kenpo work, whatever you do with it. Okay? Now, from Huck Plantis, I got that he felt what was more important was meat and potatoes. Just punch a guy in the nose. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he felt. What I got from him was you don't need to do all this flashy, spinny, jumping stuff. Just make the guy want to stop fighting. Meat and potatoes stuff. What I got out of Jeff Speakman is, I gotta be honest with you, that guy has hit me harder than any bad guy has ever hit me in my life. Not saying he's a bad guy, but saying even any bad guy. Jeff Speakman just teaching me how to move and hit with my whole body. He taught me how to hit harder than I'd ever been hit by anybody. Now let's flip that. And from Larry Tatum, I got flash, bang, speed, boom, how to take that concept of speed, accuracy, and power, that triangle there, and how to make that work by putting some flash bang in what you're doing and hitting that guy to a point that he doesn't know where to hold, because he hit him so many times so fast he doesn't know what's going on. So if you take all that stuff, and I've had other instructors as well, but those main guys there, that I think that they've kind of helped me become as complete a martial artist as I can. Besides my original instructors teaching me, you can learn this, it is not complicated, you can do it. And so getting on that path and then having all these little branches off that help me develop into who I am and how I teach as well, because along the way, I got stuff from each of those guys that affect how I teach other people.
Exactly. I love that you have that focus of concepts and principles. So I've said many times that when I started training Kenpo originally, I was at a school that was essentially of the Tracy's curriculum, and not to knock them or my teacher or anything. I mean, I had great training, and I have much love for my original instructor, but we did not work on the concepts and the principles and things like that. So when I started training with you, I mean, I'll admit I was a little I was a little miffed that I had to start from the beginning, but that in hindsight, that was the greatest thing for me, because I mean, by the time I got to my orange belt, I understood a lot more of the system than I did being almost a brown belt in my original training, and that was because it was doing the concepts, focusing more on the concepts and the principles than just learning the techniques. I mean, yeah, we had more techniques, but still,
Right.
you can do the techniques until the cows come home, but
Yeah.
if you don't understand the why, as opposed to just the how, then you gain so much more. And then carrying that into the other arts that I'm doing now, just applying that with the Kenpo mindsets. I mean, just getting into jiu-jitsu, the first few rolls that I had in jiu-jitsu, I would be in the middle of the roll and I'm thinking, okay, well, I need to manipulate a skeleton. I need to adjust that height, width, depth to be able to get in the sweep and stuff. And, you know, I'm still terrible at jiu-jitsu, but every time I'm rolling, I try and think of those kind of ideas come into my head. And same thing with the Hapkido. When we have self-defense techniques in Hapkido, and you know, they're fine and all, but I'm trying to put that Kenpo spices on it, and I just see so much more effectiveness. And then all the other kind of things, like, you know, passing the center line and where I'm positioned and all of those things, I'm trying to think about with the other arts that I do. Same thing with the Muay Thai, when we're hitting the bags or something, or we're kind of working on the sparring. I'm thinking about my you know, areas I need to defend and how I can generate more power, all of those things. And so that's one of the things that I love so much about Kenpo is it fits so well with everything. And you know, kind of just like you say, like, no one art has everything, and you can't learn everything, but Kenpo has this really great base for you to be able to plug that into other things, and to keep that mind working on not just doing the moves, but understanding how to make those moves better, and how to customize it and tailor it for the individual person. I mean, there are techniques that we all have techniques that we love and techniques that we don't like to do, and whatever particular technique may work great for you but may not work great for me because of my experience, my body type, and all of those things. But Kenpo is so flexible and allows you to be able to make it work for anybody. And then kind of also going back to one of the things that you mentioned was, it's not that a technique doesn't work. It's how do you make it work? And that's Kenpo is just so great for that.
You made a really good point about a lot of Kenpo, and probably other martial arts too, but I can really only speak to this, is the fact that a lot of it has to do with how you're wired. Kenpo is vast enough that if you need to, say, deal with a situation by grappling with somebody, we'll use like the drunk Uncle Bob comes up, oh, that karate crap don't work. And you don't want to hurt them because you don't want grandma to never invite you back over to her house at a family reunion, but maybe you just want to embarrass them and kind of make everybody see that you could have dealt with it differently if you really wanted to. And you do more of a grappling response without hurting somebody. Or you take that same attack, but you do it in a dark parking lot in the middle of the night, where somebody's approaching you while you're trying to get to your car, and they approach with the same attack. And maybe you don't want to just embarrass them. Maybe you want to stop them and to put them in the mindset that they want to run away from you and leave you alone. That against that same exact problem, you've got two different solutions generally within Kenpo, that you can go, I can grapple with this guy or I can strike this guy, and depending on what I feel I need to do, based on the situation, based on the way I'm wired compared to the way that you're wired, somebody else may be much more reluctant to want to seriously hurt somebody. And somebody else maybe, that's the only thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to go hurt them. I'm not going to be easy on them. They approach me, I'm just going to go. Somebody's going to have that different personality. And Kenpo, like you said, it has that flexibility that it can go in one direction, depending on the person and the circumstance, and can be a totally different animal in a different environment, a different circumstance, the way somebody else could be wired. So, that's another benefit to the art. Another thing I think that drew me to Kenpo to start with was Shorigoshu is a soft, hard style. And so, to me, when I saw Kenpo and I saw fast movements, but good striking, hard strikes, takedowns, that kind of stuff, I'm like, oh, yeah. I may not be in an exact neighborhood I'm comfortable with, but oh yeah, I feel this. And I say, looking through this crowd of people, I knew from that moment that I would do it the rest of my life. And my wife laughs about that because I started Kenpo within about 30 days of marrying my wife. And we've been married next month to be 41 years. And so she always laughed and said that Kenpo is the only woman she ever had to compete with for time and attention is this. So I don't know if that's completely good or bad. I don't know, but she's still here, so it must not be that bad. So.
Yeah, I like that. No, I sometimes get looks from my wife when it's like, okay, I'm gonna start another martial art, or it's like, oh, I'm going to class again this week, and it's like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, she is totally supportive, of course, and but it's like, I think there's some times where it's just like, you could just stay home today and not go to class, but it's. I can't stop. So it's like the Pringles chips. Can't eat just one. So
but I equate this as something very similar to somebody that goes to college and maybe they're taking all these different classes, varied classes, and they enjoy the experience of learning. They enjoy the experience of getting other people's point of view, being exposed to that stuff. And, think about, there's some guys that are just career college students. They're going to get, I don't know what's above a PhD, but there's probably some guys that's got that PhD plus or whatever. And, for me, I have studied Kenpo in general for the most of the last 40 years, from 5 to 7 days a week. And so with you doing several different martial arts, you're probably putting in as many hours in the week as what I've trained over those years. I just don't have enough brain cells to try and learn, 3, 4, 5 different martial arts, especially all at the same time, that I knew that Kenpo was going to give me enough. And I'm still learning. I'm approaching 41 years this next month, and I'm still finding out stuff that I didn't know that. right? I never saw it from that perspective, from being exposed as somebody who was given stuff from a different, a different perspective, and then going, you know what? That's good. I like that. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to tell it to my students now. So I'm still learning, and Kenpo has got a mixture of weapons. It's got a little bit of ground fighting, not as much as it should, in my opinion, but that's just what it is. Some might say every fight goes to the ground. That's not my experience. My experience is most fights, somebody goes to the ground. Doesn't mean everybody. You punch somebody in the face and that guy goes down, hits his head on the curb, and he's out. You're not going to get on top of them. Most people aren't. And, put them in an arm bar and try and break their arm. You're going to probably try and give them first aid, walk away, whatever you need to do. But I do see great value in guys getting skills because, since the early 90s, more and more people have done, UFC type, started out MMA, and then now it's more stand-up kickboxing, UFC stuff is more along that line, because in the beginning people were seeing people submit guys without having to draw blood on them, and now like the old Coliseum stuff, now people want to see blood and guts, and they want to see somebody get punched out and knocked out and broken nose and that kind of stuff nowadays, to where they don't, well, if you lay around on the ground and waddle with somebody till the guy taps out, well, we don't even know what you're doing, number one. We don't, they're tacticians, look, they're barely moving. People don't want to see that. They want to see somebody quit. They want to see somebody get hurt rather than somebody just tap out, everybody just stands up, So, I do think ground fighting, MMA, UFC stuff had gone from that to people want to see more striking. They want to see people get bloodied up. They want to see, cuts above the eyes and, bloody noses, and that's woohoo. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that's gone in a great direction, that sport itself so much, but I do think there's great value in getting the ability that if somebody takes you to the ground, knocks you to the ground, or if they're a good striker, and you may not want to stand and strike with them, being able to pull them to the ground and turn them into a fish out of water because they don't have any ground fighting skills. I think that's a benefit, So I don't knock that at all. And I say I wish Kenpo had more ground fighting skill work. It does have some, but most of it is more advanced work. And I think if Mr. Parker had not died in 1990, say if he lived another 10 or 15 years, I believe, just my opinion, and I don't know nothing, but I believe there would be more ground fighting skills brought into the art. Now, Jeff Speakman, what he tried to do, which I think he's done very well, trying to make a complete fighter, is to add a lot more ground fighting into his curriculum. Even if it starts stand-up, where he's teaching people how to take to the ground and submit somebody or strike them out, whatever you need to do. And he's got work in there. If you get taken to the ground, at least better than just basic level stuff of how to reverse a mount, get somebody off of you, and that kind of stuff. So I think that Mr. Speakman has done a lot of work in that direction. That a lot of Kenpo schools, what they've done is they've just adopted part of a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu curriculum into their work and go, for more money you can come in and we can work with this stuff. I think it's good, bad, and ugly if you got somebody teaching that, but they're not really qualified. They just watch UFC or watch a video and learn a couple moves. That's not that good. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you definitely have to do the work to. I'm definitely, now that I've training, I'm seeing there's a lot more technique to it. There's a lot more things that you have to think about and stuff. And yeah, you can't just watch a few videos and stuff and know what you're doing.
And so many guys out there do that. And unfortunately, I think that does creates a bad taste too, because you get somebody to watch UFC and I know how to do a triangle choke or a single leg takedown, and they think they're going to do it on somebody, and they get the snot knocked out of them. I think that it would have done them a lot better to get some time on the mat with guys that really know what they're doing. I also think that there's value in getting good stand-up skills, especially nowadays when a lot of fights are not one-on-one. I'm not knocking jiu-jitsu at all in any sense of the word, but when you look on the internet, look at World Star fights, and look at how many fights are gang jumps where you think you're going to fight one guy and then three other guys step in, and when you're comfortable dragging somebody down into your guard, that's not the best situation to be in. I'm not saying you're going to stand up and punch your way out of 3-4 guys either, but I think the odds are better if you can hit a couple of guys and create a situation where you can get away from them, as opposed to thinking you're going to fight one guy and I got this guy, and you drag him down, or you even mount him, but behind your back he's got 3 buddies running up. You're going to end up on the losing end of the dance anyway. You know what I'm saying? So I think a fair fight, I think one-on-one, I think being attacked by somebody and you don't want to go punch and kick with them, you want to control them. I think that there's a lot of value in getting ground skills. I really do. But I think it's got to be tempered with, you're going to go up against 3 guys and you're going to grab one guy and pull him down into your guard, while 2 of his buddies. My own son, he's very experienced in Kenpo. He's a very good fighter. He likes to fight, unfortunately. And he has several years in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under his belt as well. So he really thought he was invincible until he got in a confrontation with 3 Mexican guys, and he punched the one guy, and the guy threw a punch and he ducked under and got stuck in a double leg takedown. And then the guy mounted him, and while he's protecting himself from that guy, one guy went on this side, one guy went on that side, kicked him in the ribs. He dropped his arm. The guy kicked him in the head, brought his hand up. The other guy kicked him in the ribs. And he woke up with 10 people standing around him in a Walmart parking lot because they knocked him out. And he had to get help to go to the hospital. And he's a good fighter, and he thought, I'm just going to be one-on-one, and these guys are just standing there watching, and they did a number on him once they got him on the ground. So, I think that having skills of know when to stay on your feet and how, and when to go to the ground, and how to deal with somebody, and maybe never have to draw blood on them and get them to quit. I think that's important, skill to have. And then I want to go back and say, if I hadn't gone to Kenpo that night, and I'd gone to, say, a Hapkido school, or a Taekwondo school, or some Vietnamese martial art, or BJJ, maybe that's what I would have been doing all this time, because that's what I would know. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And I got a couple years in Kenpo before I became a police officer. And then I was a cop for 10 years, for the better 10 years. And I say I'm grateful that I did. And there was guys, I would get them on the ground and are you done? Are you done? And they'd be like, all right, get off me. And you try and get enough control of them to be able to handcuff them. They fight their way back on their feet, and you got to fight them all over again. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to sometimes I think if I would have done a little bit more work, getting them to the ground, or while they were on the ground, maybe I could have took the fight out of them better. Maybe if I had more skills ground fighting, that I would have been able to secure them easier. You know what I'm saying? And I sure as hell don't trust anybody in a fight anymore. That you got them on the ground and you submit them, and they go, okay, and you go, you done? Yeah, I'm done. Let me up, and you let them up, and you think they're gonna walk away, and more often than not, they want to come again. Go try that again, and they come at you again. You gotta fight with them all over again. Which is much easier to fight a guy once than to fight a guy twice, or to fight two guys once, or whatever.
Exactly. So. Yeah. No, that reminds me. I'm sorry if I'm messing this up, but I'm pretty sure Tim Bulot, I had him on previously, and I think I believe he had a situation just like you're describing, where he did end up getting on the ground, and it was that kind of situation where it's like, okay, yeah, you got him down, but then they get back up, and then you got to fight him again. And I believe that he got taken down and got kind of beat up by multiple guys. It's not like the movies where it's just, okay, well, I'm going to fight you one-on-one. It's like, no, a lot of times they've got buddies and things like that. So you have to be ready for all the different ranges and different scenarios. Another previous guest, I think I've told you about before, was he was essentially a Dalton in Roadhouse, and that he was a bouncer, and he said pretty much every night he had to fight one guy, two guys, fight a guy in a bathroom, fight a guy between cars, fight people with knives and guns and pipes, and just like kind of every kind of fighting scenario you could think of. And this was his day basically every day for years. And you can't just train kind of one set of scenarios. There's all kinds of different things that can happen. So you have to if you want to be effective and be able to come home every night, if you're a police officer or bouncer, or you're in those kind of situations, you have to train all kinds of different things, and
or now look at even a convenience store clerk. I see more and more of them have to fight for their life. Working in a convenience store, all you're doing is taking, that's $7 in gas, or you're buying a case of beer, or a gallon of milk for your kid, or whatever. That the odds are somebody could pull a weapon on you, could try and hurt you, so that you can't be a witness to what they've done, even though most criminals should be smart enough. Everything's on video nowadays almost, but they don't care, and you think you're safe, you're not safe. I teach people leaving work, going to the parking lot, depending on what side of town or what city where you work is, that you run the risk of something stupid happening anytime. Leaving the gym, after dark, you get some knucklehead. I've had guys even in my school just walk in going, hey, I think this karate crap is no good, and challenge me, or guys saying, hey, how about this? And, have to be willing to step up, and, sometimes you got to kind of give them a free lesson of something to convince them that they're just being stupid, and, I think everybody should train. In my personal opinion, I think martial arts should even be taught starting in elementary school. It should be mandatory. And I believe everybody should have to take, like PE class, I believe people should have to take it all the way into high school. And I think a real reason I feel that way is this zero tolerance crap doesn't work. What they want you to do is to be a victim, because the bad guys, the bad kids, the bad people are going to do whatever they want. And if it's zero tolerance, they're going to count on you not even sticking up for yourself, or sticking up for somebody else that you see getting hurt. That you're, hey, I'm not getting involved in this. But I believe if everybody was taught self-defense all the way through school, everybody would basically know everything. In general, everybody else knows. And I think a bully would be a lot less likely to try and torment somebody when they know there's 4 people standing around that can help that person that's being bullied. And I think by teaching people to put their hands behind their back, I don't teach any grown-up to stand there and let somebody slap them in the face. If it happens once, okay, you weren't ready for it. But to stand there and let them do it several times because, I don't want to get in trouble, I don't want to fight back. I'd rather teach you, if you know you're going to have to fight somebody, poke them in the nose first and then get out of there. Give them a reason to think, oh man, what just, and then get out of there. Rather than going, well, I didn't want to get in trouble, so I let them hurt me. I tell people a lot of times, you let somebody swing first, you're going to be hurt first. And so, that a lot of people don't want to hear that. But I believe if we taught that to children growing up, I think that would roll all the way into adulthood. I have the ability to do damage to another person, but I'm not that kind of guy. I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm not going to let anybody hurt me if I can help it. I'm not going to let anybody hurt an innocent person. I'm not going to stand by and watch that if I can help it. But so many people have been brought up to be so passive that they don't get any skills. Well, I don't know what to do. And I think, I hate to say that, but I have to say shame on you, because the resources are out here. It's the fact that a lot of times people think they know stuff that they don't know, or they think it will never happen to us. It happens to those people, not people like me. It happens to people like them. And I'm like, who's them? Who's them? Innocent, immigrant girl gets stabbed in the neck doing nothing, sitting in a seat on a subway, gets stabbed. Another person gets set on fire on the subway, gets pushed onto the tracks, doing nothing to nobody. People get raped, robbed, murdered. It's not just those people, and it's not just by those people. It's anybody can be hurt by anybody at any time. And what we want to do is go, oh, yeah, no, it doesn't happen to people like us. Well, yeah, it does. When people say that to me, I say, do you not watch Murder Behind the Mansion Lost? Really? Because it can happen to anybody. It doesn't have anything to do with race or class or education. It has nothing to do with nothing. And I really feel people taking the responsibility to be able to protect themselves and protect their families and protect innocent people, not stand around with a camera or on their phone going world star, but to protect people instead of laughing watching somebody getting hurt. You wouldn't want it happen to your mom or your sister or your son, so why would you laugh about it happening to somebody else's? And I think that is something that has to change for our society, I think, to move forward in the right direction. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Besides that, we get people living in fear. They're so afraid. They're afraid to go outside, afraid to, do all this. We shouldn't be walking around in fear. We live in the greatest country on the planet, in my opinion. And we have so many more opportunities and so many more resources than almost anybody in any other country, period. But yet we allow ourselves to feel, a certain part of the population, they're just evil, they're just bad. I have learned being a cop that 95% of all the bad stuff is done over and over by just 5% of the population. 5%. That's 5% controlling all the rest of us. The way we think, the way we behave. And I don't think that 5% is always at the bottom of the food, chain either. It's sometimes up there as well. So, but, I really believe in my heart that in learning to empower themselves is something that I think old pioneer days people had. You got land, you got cattle, your family lived in a cabin, you're 40 miles away from anybody else. Nobody was coming to rescue you. You had to take care of your own. And
exactly.
Then there was times you had to take care of your neighbor. We don't even take care of our neighbor. Most people don't even know the names of the people living on both sides of their house. Or they wave at them, or hi, or whoa, looks like they got a new car, but you don't even know them. You don't know their kids' names. You don't know nothing about them. Because I mind my own business. Well, then when the day comes that you need their help, that you need to count on them, are you going to be able to if you don't even know them? You know what I'm saying? So,
Exactly.
all right, so much for that high horse. But
I love it. That's very well said.
and the other thing, I
so
think
much we could get on
self-defense
that.
is not just punching and kicking and grappling. I believe self-defense is all-encompassing, whether it's firearms training, whether it's communication skills, whether it's learning how to read people in situations. I believe self-defense is this all-encompassing stuff. It's not just, oh, well, I'm a good boxer, or, I've got a really good double leg takedown and I can pass their guard. There's so much more to that. And I try and teach everything from weapons defense against different weapons, and how to use different weapons effectively, and how to see how this weapon may match up against a different kind of weapon, the good, bad, and the ugly involved in it, and the fact of how we need to learn how to read people. When somebody's being a knucklehead and they're getting really close to you, are they looking away? Are they looking around to see if anybody's watching them? Are they taking a stance at trying to do it kind of sneaky so you don't even really see them trying to get in a fighting stance? Are they touching on you? Are they trying to goad you into doing something they expect you to do? All this stuff. And I think all of that is so important to our safety. And like you made a mention a moment ago about how important it is not to be one-dimensional, not to only think about problems and solutions that way and nothing else. You know what I'm saying? So I just think all that stuff is really important.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's so many aspects to it, and it's not just the kicking, the punching, the takedowns. There's just like you said, there's weapons, there's the just being aware, being having that your head on a swivel, and those kind of things, and then even looking at the legal side of it. You hit somebody and they hit their head on the concrete, and it's like, well, are they going to sue you? Or if that person dies, or is their family going to come after you in courts and things like that? And yeah, we don't think about those aspects of it too. Yeah, we can do delayed sword all the live long day, but we also have to be able to defend ourselves in court and all those sorts of things. So
that's it, because as you know, I teach a fight, but it starts long before anybody touches anybody, and it lasts years sometimes after the confrontation is over. And I teach people that when the cops come on the scene and you're involved in a problem, expect to be arrested. Just expect that. Because there's 3 points of view of every physical confrontation. And that's yours, the bad guys, and the bystanders. And the cops know, I preach this, that the cops think you're going to lie your ass off to keep out of jail. The bad guy's going to lie his ass off to keep out of jail. So the point of view that's going to matter the most is going to be bystanders that don't have a horse in the race. They don't know you. They don't know the bad guy. And they're going to, okay, what'd you see in here? Okay, and then what'd that guy do? Okay, and then they're going to match it up to the two stories of the people involved. And that's how they're going to try and figure out what really might have happened. When the cops also know you can take 10 people, you can expose them to the exact same scenario that lasts, say, 3 or 4 seconds, and you can go and have everybody write down what they saw and heard, and you're going to get different stories. And part of that is based on our own personal preferences and prejudices, and the fact that our brains don't like any gaps in the story. It will try and figure out how to fill those gaps based on our own background or our own belief system. And so it is so important to understand how to handle a problem before it ever gets physical, how to handle it when it is physical, and how to handle it afterwards. What to say and what not to say to the cops, to lawyers, in front of a jury, to a judge, all that stuff, as well as knowing how to stop somebody from hurting you. And some people just focus, some arts only focus on where to kick them and where to hit them. And that's all. Just do that. And they don't set you up for the circumstances you may put yourself in without realizing that. Now, I can do it, and I'm sure a lot of other martial artists do it as well, but experience as a cop that I go, well, why didn't you try and de-escalate the problem? Oh, you did? What did you say? Now we'll learn, what kind of works, what didn't, and what they're lying about. You know what I'm saying? And okay, once they put their hands on you, you have the right to stop them, but you can only go just above what it took to squash that. If you stop somebody and you knock them down, you don't have the right to sit on their chest with a big old rock and hit them in the head until they quit moving. You don't have that right, because now you become the attacker. And so getting people, well, I was just defending myself. No, you weren't. You were defending yourself up to the point you squashed it. You stopped the guy. Once he was down the ground and he didn't want to fight no more, you had a legal obligation to stop. A lot of people don't realize that. Oh, I got the right. No, you don't. A lot of people think they do, but legally you don't. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. And if people aren't taught that, they don't know. Why? Because we only know what we know, right? Sometimes we think we know and we don't, but we really only know what we know. And I do believe I try and give people as much information having to do with self-defense, having to do with preparing yourself for hopefully only that one time in your whole life you'd ever need to use it. But it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Exactly. Oh my goodness! So, as it happens with every guest, just about. I mean, we're flying through time. There's so many things that I want to get to. So, but we can't have a 25-hour show. As much as I would probably love that, we can't do that. So we're gonna move into our lightning round here. I got a few little questions as we wrap up here, and then we'll definitely have to get you back on for a part 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 12 and all that good
ready.
Stuff.
You know me, I'll be ready.
Alrighty. I like it. All right. So first question, do you have a favorite technique?
If I was to just pull it off the top of my head, it would probably be the same one that's a lot of guys' favorite, which is 5 swords. And if I can say this about it, is because at most techniques, they're designed to try and stop the guy with every time you touch them. Okay, in theory. A lot of times you realize, okay, that strike really isn't going to hurt him. I don't have to get really lucky to really hurt him with that strike. But 5 swords is really designed from the moment you touch that guy to touch him in ways that almost every one of these should cause that guy to stumble and fall away from you or collapse down on the ground. And so I think and I like the extension too, but just the base technique gives us the ability to, I don't want to use the word punish, but I want to say get in that guy's head and make him hurt in so many different places he doesn't know where to hold. And I love that about that technique. Plus, it's early enough in the system that you're getting it young in the art, and you're practicing it all the way through, just refining it, getting better at it, putting moves together, your stance, it's building your power, as opposed to getting it way down toward brown belt, black belt material, to where, it's really cool down here, but I'm way more comfortable with techniques I got down there. You know what I'm saying? So I would say, off the top of my head, I would say 5 swords is probably my favorite go-to technique.
Very nice. I like it. Great answer. All right. Next question. Do you have a favorite form and or set?
Favorite form and or set. My favorite form would be long form 4. And the rhyme And reason is that it deals with missile attacks, punches and kick strikes, which I think in a lot of ways are harder to deal with. To see a punch coming at you, or the guy's just looking and bang, now it throws a kick combination at you, of how to just instinctively get your hands where they need to be to deal with it. And it's the longest form in the system, so it has the most information that we can pull from. Because what I think is really important is to be able to, especially with the forms, is to pull bits and pieces out of them and be able to put them into play. Maybe not full technique, but to grab part of a pattern and be able to use it right then without thinking about it, getting it to become instinctive with you. So I like it. It's the longest form in the system. I like it because it's doing missile attacks. We're grappling. Somebody grabs on you. That's in a lot of ways that's easier to deal with because their hands are still are on you, and so then we can become offensive on them. But when you're dealing with punches and kicks flying at you, building those instinctive motions, and I think long forward does that. Now, as far as sets, it's something that's way basic. I mean, I say, all these other things, but I really, really like finger set one because all these open hand strikes that I really find, my own experience, more effective than punching somebody with a closed fist a lot of times, because you punch wrong, you think all these punches in the movies, these guys don't hurt their hands. That's a bunch of junk. I'm telling you from experience. You punch somebody wrong, you're going to tweak your wrist, or you're gonna jack your knuckles up, and you're going to be walking around with your hand wrapped up for about 6 weeks. But if you're striking open hand and you're doing that stuff, you can get effect without the risk of a lot of damage to yourself. So I like finger set one. Finger set two is good. We're taking finger set one, we're moving, but I think the basics taught in finger set one of how to strike with an open hand very quickly, I think has a lot of value. So if I was to say a set, I'm going to say finger set one would probably be my favorite set to work, that I get the most out of, I would say.
Very nice, very nice. I like it. All right, next question. Do you have a favorite weapon?
Knives. And I got a story behind that. When I started as a cop, I was deathly afraid of knives. Absolutely deathly afraid of knives. Part of that was Dan Inosanto, Bruce Lee's right-hand man, was originally a Parker black belt. And then he went with in those days, when he got a black belt, Parker said, go out and learn something else. Feel free, go. Well, Dan Inosanto went with Bruce Lee. Dan Inosanto made a training video for law enforcement officers where he was teaching cops that if somebody's within 21 feet and they have a knife and they know how to use it, they will cut you. You might be able to shoot them before it's over, but they're going to cut you, and they can cut you very seriously. And so I watched this training video where Dan Inosanto was in a cell, kneeling down as a box. A cop come in. They don't tell the cop, hey, what's going on? Just, hey, go get that guy out of there. Tell that guy to get out of there. And Dan Inosanto come up with a training knife and simulate cutting that cop's throat. Then they go out on the street and they're telling cops, this is a training scenario. You need to, I think that guy has a warrant. You guys need to, get him under control, identify him. And they come up on him and he reaches behind his back and pull out a training knife and cut a cop 2 ways a Sunday. And that scared me so bad. I never want to be, as a cop, confronted by some guy that has a knife on him. And how am I going to know they have a knife on him until I see it? And every time he showed it, he could cut that cop. Even more than one cop, before they could draw their gun, freeze, drop it, and boom, they're out of cut. So they were teaching that you need 21 feet between you and the knife, and you need to put obstacles between you, whether it's a fire hydrant, a phone booth in those days, a car, before you deal with that guy with a knife. Because I was so afraid of knives, I said, to get over this, I need to get comfortable with them. I need to learn their strengths and their weaknesses. The biggest weakness is range. They got to get close to you. And the strengths are, it's a silent killer. They can cause you to bleed out without making a sound that a gun or something like that, some kind of explosive projectile would do. Okay. Then I want to get effective of how do they know? Somebody who knows how to use it. I already knew how to use a gun. You point and shoot. I knew how to use a nightstick in those days, then a PR-24, an expandable baton, all those things like that. But because I was afraid of knives, I didn't carry one. And I said, I got to get good at what are they good at? How are they using it to make it effective? And then now we got more than 3 decades down the road of me training knives on a regular basis, as well as teaching people how to defend against them and how to use them effectively if you have to. If there's 3 guys and you've got a knife, that knife can become an equalizer. Because you got that bad guy and he's got 2 weapons, 2 of his buddies, that might well be the equalizer, as opposed to you just want to go hands-on with 3 guys. So it will be a knife. Short answer. God, sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. That's I love it for a number of reasons. I mean, one, I guess I've never really been a weapons guy for myself, and just mainly because I'm scared. I'm terrified of knives. I'm terrified of guns. I guess I admire them. I appreciate them. I've been always kind of interested in them, but as for me having them, it kind of freaks me out. Although now there's been multiple times now that I've been thinking about I kind of want to have like a daily carry, and I want to deal with that fear of them and get.
And you can carry a knife virtually anywhere. A lot of places are prohibitive of carrying a firearm. You're not going to walk around with nunchucks on your neck. You're not going to walk around with 2 underneath sticks, screaming sticks to fight with. And I don't know that many people besides myself that may have a limp good enough that maybe carrying a staff would be good for you. You know what I'm saying? But a knife carried on in a sheath on your belt, people see that in a restaurant, they go, oh, he must work with his hands. Some kind of utility worker guys working on cutting electrician or something like that. So we see a gun sticking out from underneath your shirt and they're like, oh my God, maybe that guy's going to rob the place. Even if you're not. It's got a stigma to it, a gun does, that a knife doesn't have. That a screaming stick's walking around, going into the restaurant, one under your arm and one over your shoulder. Oh, I'd like a table for 2, please. We're not serving you, go. We're going to call the funny farm for you, But a knife is people don't see that as a big threat unless you pull it out and you point it at them. They don't really see it as a threat, see it on you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's why I lean toward a knife and not nunchucks.
I like it. All right. So our final question, there's anyone that you could train with, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, besides Ed Parker, who would that be?
It would be Frank Trejo.
Oh, very nice.
And I say that because of this. Over the years, I had learned so much about Mr. Trejo. And I've had conversations with him, although they would only be on the phone or maybe an email or 2 over the years, but more often over the phone, but never in person. And he was so loyal to Mr. Parker. And he was a very skilled boxer, so he would bring that to the table in how he taught. So if I could have had the opportunity to get on the mat with anybody other than Mr. Parker, it would have been Frank Trejo, that I didn't get the opportunity to. I mean, I did train with a lot of other guys going to camps in Vegas and that kind of stuff, but of somebody that I wished I had that opportunity. We were at a Kenpo camp, internationals, one year, My daughter was lucky enough to take a class with him, but I was teaching a class at the same time he was teaching classes, so I never got to take one with him. But that would have been somebody that I thought was so interesting and had so much knowledge, especially in putting more handwork within the system. That it would have been Frank Trejo.
No, for sure. I like it. All right, so we are at our final piece of business for today, and that is the shameless self-promotion. So you can plug anything that you want, or if there's anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to make sure that we talked about today.
I just happen to have handy.
I'm glad that you did that.
160-page, I call it a book, people call it a manual, really, on grafting bridges within American Kenpo. And like I said earlier, it's really a study in how to take parts of the system and mesh it with other parts. Now, there are people who are familiar with the art, and they graft and they take one technique, and at the end of it they stick another one. And when I see that, I ask them why. Why would you do that? Just because that's what the instructor said. We're doing delayed sword and then alternate maces on the end of that. There's no rhyme and reason for it. Not that I know of. We're just making a longer technique out of it. Okay, all right. And I spent 2.5 years exploring why would we stick parts of one technique have anything to do with another. And I come up with a structure that looked at only 5 rhyme and reasons that I could find of why we would do any of that. Now, we could stick them end to end, or we could connect them there, or we could intertwine them like this all the way through, you know what I'm saying? Or we could take one piece of this and all of that and look at how we can grab information within the art and put it together to make it more effective in a lot of ways. Because I learned as a cop, somebody may throw a punch, and you start dealing with that, and you think, oh, I'm going to do 7 moves on this guy, and before you get to move 2, he's throwing a punch out the other hand. And now what are you going to do? You're going to race to get to your second move, or you're going to throw that technique in the wind, and you're going to come over here and try and stop that attack. And then you're going to try and, I got a technique from here that I can do. And what if now the guy goes to uppercut you in the gut with that first hand? Now, if you don't know how to flow from one to the other, how to disengage that and jump to something else, you're going to think, if I get there fast enough, you won't hit me with that other punch, and both guys fall. Both guys go down. So that's what this manual is. And then, like I said, I wrote a workbook that goes with it that is nothing but spreadsheets that teach you how to find relationships between stuff in the art, whether it's footwork, handwork, first move, how many techniques in Kenpo start with this block right here, and you can list them all out, and then you can go, well, you know what, if I have to go here, I can go to any of these other techniques that are related because they share this, you know what I'm saying? And then we made a training DVD. Now, the book can be sold separate. The workbook and the book can be sold. The workbook, the book, and the DVD can be a package. Anybody who's interested in information about that can reach out to my email, which is tskenpo, Kenpo, @gmail.com, tskenpo@gmail, and I will get information out to them. We've sold hundreds and hundreds of copies without really even marketing them. When we first put this out, we had put out our website, stuff like that for it, and I couldn't keep them. I couldn't get them printed fast enough from the printers to keep them in stock. And then we kind of took the site down, and then we just started selling them to people that asked about them on the internet. And you know, I'm fixing to set up another page on the internet this month to where people can just go there and just get it like through PayPal or whatever off the thing. But I would like to say again, thanks for having me on. I know we were trying to get this to work over a while between our two schedules of me still recovering from having open heart surgery and everything, and then your work, and then trying and my internet connection probably here. And so I was glad that we were able to do this. This was a lot of fun. I'm very grateful for you giving me the opportunity to come on, because I know that you're doing really well with this podcast, and like I said earlier, I wish you nothing but the best with this, Reggie. I want every martial artist on the planet, at least the ones that speak English maybe, to get in line to get on here with you and get some exposure and tell their story, because nobody would know my story outside of this had they not actually been on the mat with me or gone to dinner with me. You know what I'm saying? So again, I am very grateful for this opportunity. I think you're doing an amazing service, not just to Kenpo, but to martial arts in general. And I think that's very important, that nowadays it seems like the world is so me, selfish. What am I getting out of this stuff? That it makes it really hard sometimes for people. And then I think a lot of people get in that groove of, well, why you want to talk about? Why you want me to come on? Well, you're going to try and make me look bad. You got some crap on me. You're going to try and embarrass me. Some junk like that. So I think a lot of people, even maybe they've been bitten once, I don't know, but that they got that. And I really do think we need to make like a video library, which is what I kind of look at what you're doing, of allowing people to come out, tell their story, let you ask them some questions maybe they did or didn't think about ahead of time, and you're doing a great thing, man.
Oh, thank you so much for being on, for taking the time to be on and sharing your story. And I mean, we covered a lot of great points. So we definitely have to do this again to get into some more stuff. But yeah, I can't thank you enough for being on, and then for your training. I mean, we've talked a little bit about what happened before I found you, and that whole story that we won't get into online here, but but yeah, it's been just really great, training with you. We'll turn on. I don't have the Ass Kiss Rodeo sign, but we'll turn it on. But I mean, I really want to say that I've just really been appreciative of your training, and I've grown so much as a martial artist just from how you handle things, how you teach things. There's a lot of great martial artists out there, and they don't teach well, and not everybody can teach well. And I think that you've done just a really, really great job, not only with me, but all the other students as well. And I'm just very grateful to be a student of yours. And yeah, we'll just keep learning and growing together. And yeah, I think everyone is going to be real excited to hear your story. And yeah, let's get some folks out there to get a hold of your book, your manual, and follow all the great things that you're doing. And yeah, we'll just keep this train rolling. So once again, I can't thank you enough, and I'm sure I will try after we stop recording. But yeah, no, thank you again. And yeah, this is gonna be fun.
I'm very grateful to have you part of our life as well, Reggie. You're an inspiration to a lot of people that have trained in our school and are there now. They look up to you. You are a wealth of knowledge, well-rounded, and we're grateful to have you as part of our group.
Thank you.